In this episode, my friend Eugene Barnes sits down with me again. He's been a guest previously, and we just catch up on what he's been doing over the last 2.5 years practicing the infinite banking concept. We had a lovely conversation. This man is full of wisdom. I enjoyed it, and I hope you do as well. Thanks for listening.
But from a positive and faith standpoint, my pastor used to say, you don't have to use the word, I can't afford it right now. I can't afford it, but it's just not wise for me to do this at this time. I don't like that term either. I didn't have enough money to buy a bag of peanuts or Pepsi Cola. I don't like using the term, I can't afford it. The devil is a lie.
That's right. I love that. I love that. You know, words have meaning. Words have power. You know, if it comes out of your mouth, it's on you. You know, and you don't. And I'm just saying that you shouldn't let stuff like that get on you. You know, I choose not to do that today. You know, not in my best interest to do that today. I like that. My daddy used to say when I was young and if I was griping about the cost of something and, you know, I say, oh, that's too high, or, you know, they want too much for that. And, you know, I just remember, you know, like if I said that, you know, it's too high, that's too much money. You know, he would say, no, that's not too high. You can't afford it. You know, and his encouragement to me was to make something happen, right? Go out and create the wealth, you know, go to work and spend less than you make. And, you know, of course, it used to tick me off too. And I was, you know, a little bit insulted, a little bit hurting the pride, you know. But the fact was my habits in situations like that needed to be changed. You know, it's, you know, you're going to spin, and then decide to count. That's backwards where I come from. You know, you've got to accumulate something. And then, you know, like I love the timeline, the way you went through the numbers and those individuals, those gentlemen, their 401k balances. And if, let's say that I can only pay $10 a day, $50 a day, whatever it is, instead of it going into a 401k, I'm going to pay a life insurance premium. And if I do that, because I have discipline, I mean, we can go out. The further out we go, the bigger the numbers are going to be because it only goes one way. The cash value increase in life insurance only goes one way. Okay. And so now I got time. But if you got 25 or 30 years on your side, you know, that there's only two. You know, time being the most important, but when you put time and money together, the longer the time period, you know, the greater the compounding. There's no secret about that. But if I'm systematically accumulating capital, i.e. paying a premium, properly structured policy that has a legitimate cash value with a legitimate company, it's gonna only go one way. It's gonna accumulate. But now when we bring in the banking, it'll have a rate of return on it, right? No question. But now if we bring in the banking function, I can collateralize that and get out of debt, like in your case, or maybe go make an investment or whatever I was going to do anyway without interrupting that compounding. Man, that's powerful. And my encouragement has always been for people to expose themselves to the idea that they can control the banking function. And when you ponder on things like that, and we all, when it comes to our money and wealth, I get it. We all like to pencil the numbers, you know, and I think that's human. Man, when you pencil that for a year or 2, 6 months, and whenever you can see that you can accumulate money and collateralize it without interrupting the compounding, that'll blow your mind. That's a complete paradigm shift in thinking to the point that it will cause you or could cause you to maybe change your actions. Man, that's powerful.
Yeah, I tell you. When I heard it, I got the concept pretty quick. And I took a bite of it and I've been chewing ever since.
Right. I love that. I love it. Well, so what else? What else do you want to touch on, Eugene? You're like
one thing,
full of wisdom.
One thing, one fellow said one time. I said, "Do you know you could do a good thing at the wrong time?" I said, I'd rather do a good thing at the wrong time, but anytime you do the wrong thing at the wrong time. When you're doing good things, say, for example, I'm saving money. That's a good thing. And in this particular case, I'll say the wrong way. You're not going about it the wrong way, because as I mentioned before in this podcast, when they're talking about this dude said, well, I never heard of anybody having cash value within the first 2 or 3 years. I said, well, I can turn you on to something to give you a cash value in the first 3 or 4 weeks. And they just wanted to call me wrong, and I didn't know what I was talking about and all this kind of stuff. I said, well, obviously, I know somebody that knows more than you do about your own business. He said, well, I never heard it. I said, well, somebody not been in it for 24 years. I said, well, you've just been ignorant to the fact for 24 years. I said, if I hadn't schooled him, who had been here for 17 years, another 7 years, he'd be saying the same thing you're saying. I never heard of it, but he can't say it now because I just told him. So when you're talking about people going to force their stuff on you, and it's just, they're like money and false doctrines and anything else. If you don't do your homework and you don't understand individual word meaning and definition, when people come to you with false doctrine, they're already not studying. They're saying what somebody told them. But wisdom comes, like say, when you turned me on to the banking concept, then I started studying for myself and started learning what a lot of these things meant. Many people that teaches false doctrine, and it is so misleading, is they're taking something that they heard and they're taking off with it and not studying anything. He says, why you do term all the time, where knowledge and wisdom is lacking, ignorance and stupidity will surely overrule. And he just wound up looking bad in the end. There was, say for example, because what I'm finna mention now is far, far more serious, but there was we know the atheists, they say they don't believe in God. And there was one time said he had a near-death experience. He said, but after then, that I found out I had been lied to. Oh, I have been lied to. But it's sad, when I saw another sign one time that said, there are no unbelievers in hell. Mm-hmm. It is so true, yet eternally sad. It is so true. But why wait to the vicissitudes of life is coming against you like a flood? Then they say, now I believe. Well, we've been trying to tell you all the time. I've heard so many of the financial gurus out there that say that infinite banking concept it's a hoax, it's a scam and all this here. But I said, I'm hearing it from the ones that have never been in it. Right. I'm not hearing it from the one that's in it. And I remember in one of your podcasts where you said you picked on the Federal Reserve, protect on the IRS code 7702. Your money, your loans is collateralized, and you never use your money. Then you said, who wouldn't want that? When you said, who wouldn't want that? I said, I know I want it, and I have it, and I plan to keep it. Amen. I tell you now, and then it's a bit irritating when you listen to people like that in one sense. You know they're wrong, but it's irritating me. But then too, it's not like I have to sit there and listen to them. But even so often I listen to them just to see how wrong they are. And they tend to talk to see how much they think they know when I already know. I mean, some people used to say just as wrong as 2 left shoes, but 2 right shoes is just as wrong as 2 left shoes. But if you're wrong, you're wrong. And I also had to get that straight with one other thing. Had to get this straight with the Nash County Nash County Courthouse. Well, they couldn't charge me with contempt of court because I wasn't in court. But I was called for jury duty. And they didn't pay me for 2 days of my valuable time. I only had 3 days, but they paid me nothing. And because I didn't show up the 3rd day. So I went back to the judge. I said, I need to speak to somebody who is authorized to say whether or not I get paid for these 2 days of my valuable time when I could have been studying something more important. Or these 2 litigants here standing here in court debating about a lawsuit when the defense attorney and the prosecuting attorney said, there's no question about who's in fault. There's no question about, well, if you know that, get these litigants together and you all reach a settlement because I have something else to do. And they said the reason I didn't get paid for the 17th and 18th of April because I didn't show up for the 19th. Well, let me tell you why I didn't show up for the 19th, because somebody gave me something that I didn't need. And what they should have told me, they didn't tell me. To call this number, and I called it the 17th, called the 18th, on this to be in court for the jury duty, report to court. I was there. On the 19th, when I called that number, it said, you do not have to report for jury duty on the 19th of April 2023. I said, now this is the court now. I said, they can arrest you for not being in court. I played it back again. I told Betty to come and listen to it. We heard the same thing. But the reason I said, you all probably never said nothing about an arrest is because you know you're wrong. I said, but I only come to let you know that professionalism does not indicate perfection, not by a long shot. Much less does it constitute or establish perfection, not professionalism. I said, dude, Michael Jordan with his old $3 billion self would never have missed a shot. So I'm talking to an answering machine that said I didn't have to be there. The next day, as sure as my name is Eugene, I'm riding around in my bad machine, riding around in Wilson County viewing the scene with a gangster lean. And then I get a phone call that made me mean. Why aren't you in court? So I hustled from Wilson County to Nash County. And then they said, well, that's all right. They said they didn't need you. But see, what happened, what they won't admit is that they played back and they heard the same thing I heard. And the reason I wasn't there. And I said, you and your little entourage, you left out one little specific that caused this problem. I said, but if we can resolve this, it would take care of the next 100 problems. I said, it's a minor plight, a very minor contingency, but a very costly lesson. In fact, a very valuable lesson. And I think the judge probably figured then that I said it was a costly lesson and valuable lesson to me. I said, no, I've done my homework before I got here. I said, I don't necessarily wish to be paid money as long as you all pay attention. And I think she said, well, I think this conversation is over. I said, I was about to dismiss class, Your Honor. You all may go now. And I got out of there. But you see, criminal contempt and civil contempt of court carry about a $500 fine and 30 days in jail. Where criminal contempt about a $500 fine and 90 days in jail. So there was no way they were close to the court date because of about 2 weeks after, and I'm still waiting on my money that I didn't get. And I know I'm gonna get it now. So these things, so people are not going to admit when they're wrong. And like I said about the courthouse, the people selling insurance policy. If you're wrong, you're just wrong. There would have been time I was wrong, didn't want to admit I was wrong. But hey, you grow older, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. Yeah. You know, I couldn't get anywhere to just keep scheming. If you were wrong, you didn't know that you didn't know. But I did know when I went down, I know what I was told. I know what I heard, had the number that I called and all of this. And they still didn't pay me for 2 days of my valuable time. So that's all right. I just keep driving.
Maybe they paid attention, right?
Yeah, they paid attention.
They didn't pay you, but they might have paid attention. That reminds me of, it's not like I have a lot of time for amusements, but every now and then, I'm on Facebook and, you get stalked. If you look at something too long on social media today, all the algorithms throw this stuff up at you. And I do take great pride and joy from time to time looking at these comments, these thread of comments on Facebook when life insurance comes up, whether it's universal life, whole life, becoming your own banker, or whatever they've, bastardized the name to, changing Nelson's work, the name of his work and all these. And so I'm guilty. I have spent too much time going through some of those threads, Eugene. I'm telling you. Excuse me. But reading the comments is so entertaining. You can tell the people that know nothing about life insurance, which is about 98% of them, right? And then you can tell the people, and I mean, I'm talking about just the general public, right? And then you can tell the financial gurus that know nothing about life insurance, but there'll be a great big old long thread of all these people talking about stuff they know nothing about. And they refuse to hear or listen to the other person's point, which I agree with quite often because the other person's point is just as wrong as their point. But just watching these people, type in their responses and their communications between each other when it comes to life insurances, it's been quite entertaining, and they'll go on and on and on. And, you can only take so much of it because then you're just subjecting yourself to ignorance, once you get past the humor and then just move on. But it's been quite entertaining.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's hard to admit when you're wrong. I completely agree with that. Most people can't or won't. And I don't want to, like I said earlier, I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but it is difficult. But at the end of the day, if you're wrong, you're wrong, right? It's okay. It's make the correction, make an apology if you owe one, and then stop being wrong. Right. I mean, and when it comes to education or knowledge, there's no excuse to continue to be wrong, right?
That's right. That's right.
But most people or a lot of people don't like to read, and they just want everything fed up to them in a radio show or a podcast or YouTube video. And Nelson's first book, Becoming Your Own Banker, 92 pages, big print, lots of illustrations, some blank pages, very simple read. It's an easy read, very conceptual. And, let's see, he was a life insurance agent in 1964. Prior to that, he was a forester. He was an economist from 1947, and a real estate investor. And so he printed that book in 2000, Becoming Your Own Banker. So I know I should be better at numbers, but let me bring up a bit of a calculator here. So he printed the book in 2000. He quit writing life insurance outside of his family, right? And but he was still in the life insurance business because he still wrote policies for his family in 2000. But between 1964 and 2000, when that book was printed, that's 36 years. All right. And so 36 years, he was a forester for almost 10. He's an Austrian economist since 1947 and a real estate investor. And so all of that history, all of that experience, all rolled up into a 92-page book, right? And it's legitimately an easy read. And my point here is I talk an awful lot about the infinite banking concept and life insurance. But no one can convey, if it took you 3 hours to read that book, I don't know of anyone that could convey that much knowledge in 3 hours. I just don't. And Nelson used to do 10-hour seminars, and it was in essence going through his book. And so 3 hours, 4 or 5 hours, if you're a slow reader, spread it out over a couple of weeks to read this 92-page book. And the amount of experience and knowledge with the background of life insurance, real estate, forestry, all Austrian economics that one could draw out of that book is just hard to beat. And and my point there is that I believe one should just make the time to read the book. Pass up all the YouTube videos and all these social media threads and all these people talking about something they don't know anything about or they know very little about. Nelson used to say you take a little bit of information and you can absolutely come to ridiculous conclusions. And so to avoid that, just go straight to the source and purchase a book. You can get it on Audible and spend 3.5, 4 hours reading it and absorb some of that experience that he had. And then, like you said, I love the definition of study. I think I'm gonna put that in the notes of this podcast. Spend some time chewing on that.
Yes.
It could change your life. It could change your life. So.
Oh yeah. And I want to say this, James. One thing I tell the people to kind of be on the lookout for when they say the infinite banking concept, that is a policy called the infinite banking concept, but it's the IUL. What is it?
Index Universal Life.
The Industry of Universal Life. And I was telling Beck this. One good scenario was when a person never asks. If a person asks questions, they're uninformed only temporarily. But a person that goes on and on and on, never asks questions, is a fool forever.
Ooh.
In a particular arena, they're just foolish forever. It never considers that there may be somebody out there that knows more than they know.
Yeah.
You see? And that's why I learned what I did learn as quick as I did about the infinite banking concept, because when I heard you all introduced the infinite banking concept versus another fellow introduced the infinite banking concept from industry universal life?
Indexed
universal life.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I knew it wasn't the same. There were some slight differences in there. Did you agree? Have you noticed that, or you agree with that?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
What I found is different from what we have. So when I see infinite banking concept and I look at certain names under there, and I know the people involved, then I know not to watch that one.
Yep.
So, and like you say, unless it's just for entertainment, but they're not going to sway me one way or the other. Right. Like Pastor Grant used at our church, get in your lane, stay focused, and keep driving. Now, there could be some bumps in the road along the way, but stay focused.
Sure.
And keep driving.
That when it comes to IUL, Index Universal Life, that's, Universal Life came out in the 80s, maybe even the late 70s. And it came out really because of E.F. Hutton. Remember him? When E.F. Hutton speaks, everyone listens. Yeah. So that was, a brokerage house, and they wanted to compete with the life insurance industry. And then the life insurance industry wants to be all things to all people. So they create this they create Universal Life. That's the original. That was too back when the interest rates were pretty high. And people were hating on whole life insurance. Have Ralph Nader and all of these termites, people that just sell term. And then the bond promoters too, they didn't like life insurance because it was hard for them to compete against life insurance. You're just selling the rate of return on bonds compared to life insurance. Anyway, so E.F. Hutton, they decide that they, stockbrokers, right? They want to get into the life insurance business, and life insurance industry want to be all things to all people, and then people hating on whole life. So the life insurance industry is like, we'll unbundle whole life insurance, which cannot be done. Separate the cash value component, right, that accumulates from the cost of the death benefit. That's the genesis of Universal Life. And then they did it in a time where there's a high interest rates. Okay. You know what happened to all those Universal Life policies that were sold in the 70s and 80s? They blew up because the cost of the insurance goes up every day that your feet are on the ground and you're breathing oxygen. The internal cost of the insurance goes up. And interest rates have done nothing but go down since 80s, right? And so they've all blown up, and I'm just sharing with you. And then, so the life insurance industry comes out in the 90s, late 80s and 90s, with variable universal life. So they changed the sub-accounts so they look like many little mutual funds. They're called sub-accounts within the universal life policy, the variable universal life policy. Okay, so they're trying to get a high rate of return. So the rate of return on the investment vehicle, the sub-accounts, will outperform the internal increasing cost of the death benefit, right? Mm-hmm. Well, then they discovered that the market doesn't always go one way. The market does not always go up. So an awful lot of them, the ones that haven't imploded, or they're on their way to becoming cannibalized, or it's just a matter of time before they implode, my opinion. And I've been in life insurance business 32 years. I don't know everything, but I understand life insurance, okay? All right, so then they come out with indexed universal life, right? IUL. And it used to be called, Eugene, equity indexed universal life. Well, they had to drop the E to get the word equity out, right? And then some of them have even replaced it with fixed indexed universal life. Okay, still the same concept, trying to separate, unbundle whole life insurance. So you got a cost of the death benefit that goes up every day you're on the face of the earth. There's an exponential curve internally by design, you can't correct it, of the cost of life insurance, the death benefit in a universal life policy. There is an exponential curve. That cost of insurance goes up to the point that it will cannibalize itself, the policy. Now, I don't care what these promoters, how they promote it, how they can do their specially designed, and they'll say guys like me don't understand how to design a universal life to keep it from happening. Okay, so let's just, and I don't mean to go on a big historical history trip there, but there's some background there. So let's just think about that. All right, so you came out with universal life and it blows up. That's strike one. You come out with variable universal life, and if it hadn't blown up, it's on its way to blowing up. That's strike two. And here now we have index universal life. Hell, strike three and the game's over. You're out. But it can make for a really good presentation, and it's always dumbed down to the lowest common denominator, rate of return. And it's still smoothly jumping over the banking function, except for now some of these life insurance agents, some of them have discovered Nelson Nash, and they can even stumble his name, out of their mouth, Nelson Nash. And they can even say and put together 3 letters, IBC, right? Infinite banking concept. So they talk about all that while they're still promoting this universal life that's flawed by design. And they're still, playing the game on the third strike. But, God bless them. They don't know, That's my opinion. They don't know. There's only 2 types of agents that promote that, in my opinion. And I'm saying this in love and a little bit out of admonishment. You're either ignorant, and being ignorant's okay as long as you don't remain that way, right? But you can fix ignorance. You can learn, all right? So either those guys, those individuals promoting IUL are ignorant and they don't know. They just don't know. Or, Eugene, they do know. And if they do know and they still promote that, then it's a moral issue.
Yeah. You reminded me when you said that it's an ignorant to the fact they just don't know. I told Betty, I said, one of the best scenarios that I thought of when a person is ignorant to a certain thing and then just insist on being ignorant, then I have no alternative to grant to them their promotion. It's stupid. You're going to be promoted. But now, when you was, and another thing, when you was talking just now, you said about the market is not to remain the same. That also affects 401ks. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
I got this X number of dollars in my 401k. I said, well, according to the market band, you are somewhere between $700,000 to $800,000 short because the government used the rest of your money.
Oh,
Brokers, government and brokers, and all these people that benefited them. So if they give you a nice little chunk, what they say a nice little chunk, what the people think is a nice little chunk at retirement time, then they stick their chest out and say, I done good.
yeah.
Yeah, but the government done better.
Yes, no question. Uncle Guido always does really well, doesn't he?
Uncle Guido.
Yeah, and at who's
friends?
That's right. At whose expense? You know, I like that. If you think about that, let's say that say you have $100,000 in your 401k. All right. Well, you know, dang good and well, 20 to 50% of that's going to be taxable. Right, depending on whatever the tax brackets are and your income is whenever you decide to retire, which is an unknown date into the unknown future, right? All right. So, you know, a third to half of that money is Uncle Guido's. Pray tell, who's paying all the management fees on that money of Uncle Guido's? Who's paying that? Coming straight out from your account, right? So there you are paying fees and assuming all the risk too. Right, you're assuming all the risk, whether that value goes up or down, but then you're paying fees on Uncle Guido's share. Now, if you think that through, if you'll study that issue and little points like this along your financial path within this financial construct, you might discover that the game that's being played is a sucker's game. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am.
Yeah, you're so right.
You know, and I say it all the time because I love it. You know, you remember W.C. Fields.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some of these younger generation, they don't know who he was. Okay. That's why. Okay. Black and white movies, you know, just look up W.C. Fields if you, the listener, don't know who he was. You might be entertained. Okay. W.C. Fields was talking one time to an individual about money and investing, you know, and he says, well, the broker made money, all right, and the firm made money, and 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Well, who's the other third one? That's you, you know. two of them won, and 2 out of 3 ain't bad. It's like, yeah, okay. So, you know, it's man, if we know what's going on, Eugene, Nelson said it, you know, if we know what's going on, we'll know what to do. You know, we got to get the characters in the play right. Who's the banker, right? Who's performing the banking function? And the banking function exists. Banking is, I've said it many times, I think banking is the oldest profession on earth, Eugene. Help me out correct me if I'm wrong or not, okay? Because money financed what we commonly think is the oldest profession in the world. That was finance. Yeah. So that means banking is the oldest business in the world, right? So banking is, and whomever performs the banking function is going to profit from it. And it should be you. You know, whatever it is you're doing for a living, I don't care if you're laying bricks, you're doing carpentry. I don't care if you're building tires or automobiles. I don't care what you're doing. If you're self-employed and you're in business, I don't care what you're doing. Whatever you do, whatever you put your hand to is really probably the most profitable thing that you can do, right? And the second most profitable thing you can do is finance what you do for a living. You say, well, James, I'm not in business. I don't have anything to finance. While we're all driving cars, paying for education, buying homes, and then we're having children. And then we go on vacation. Oh, and our children are getting educated, and they're buying cars, and they're buying. Banking is. And, man, if you just get into the banking business, it could change your life. And this is the way to do it, in my humble opinion. So,
yes, sirree.
Yeah, it makes me want to preach, Eugene.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying. It's like,
if I can't hand you a collection right now, I can hand you an amen.
there you go. Yeah. All right, so look, Eugene, we've been going about an hour and a half, which is good. You know, time flies when you're having fun. I could spend all day talking to you, sir. Anything you want to cover before we wind down?
Well, I just keep my gloves on and keep boxing my way through this thing. Every now and then you get somebody to come.
Yeah.
I mean, being as motivational as possible.
You share this with a lot of people, don't you?
Yes. One time, after about a year, one time I kind of slacked up and I've been going full force again. And every so often I had somebody to come back and say, what that thing you were talking about now about that investment? I said, yeah, I know you didn't hear it good because it's not what I said. I said, come on, let me tell you a little more about it. So it kind of remind me of the time you said when Nelson expected X number of people to be at a seminar. And it was far less than he expected. And when I got my little notes together, some thing that I try to point out that I think was going to be something they can catch on to, that they think would be might be beneficial to them, and they just never show any more interest in it. So that's when obviously they didn't get it. But we'll just keep doing what we're doing. It's working for us, and after a while, people say, just like on something, how do you do this and how do you do that? How do you do that? Well, we've done it through this infinite banking concept, and I promise you, it made things a lot more easier. The money doesn't draw interest in a safe deposit box. Burying your money in the ground or wherever you keep it. And to know what was exciting, to know that it's constantly growing. One young lady said it was like a savings on steroids. He said it's just to keep feeding the policy.
Yeah, yeah. That's
feeding the policy. Once you get hooked up, then you'll see what we're talking about. You can pull it up on your computer. You can look at an account. You can see what it's doing. You can see the pending on the same day your premiums come out, and all this kind of stuff. You see where it's processed at the end of the year. At the end of the month, you can see it all because it's your banking system. Amen. So my word to the crowd is to get with it, and you may not want to quit it. Right?
Get with it.
Yeah. And like when I stood there, I was going to say something at the pastor's anniversary, and the administrator said you got 3 minutes because there's so many people on the talk. I said, well, the administrator told me that I had 3 minutes.
Oh, listen, Eugene, you froze. It might be my internet connection. I just got a sign that said my internet connection was unstable. I didn't get any of that. I mean, and man, you were on a roll, and I hate that I missed it. Can you go through that again? The administrator.
When I spoke to the administrator, to the pastor, someone had things to say to him on his anniversary. And I said, the administrator said I had only 3 minutes. I said, she said it like she meant it. I said, but she failed to realize that a minute had only 60 seconds in it. And if I talk too long, eternity might creep in it. So I got with it real quick. And when I finished that, she said, you already lost a minute. But every other minute on my own time, I've been trying to encourage people to get to something that will be highly beneficial to them. If they don't think so, give it a try anyway. Give it a try anyway. And it's just like the old adage go from years long ago, try it, you might like it. I'm sure you might like it. I haven't heard anybody that was in it yet that said they didn't.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. Me too. I've seen people break things before, and they get sidetracked and what have you. But when you in Nelson, he always said this is caught more than taught. And when you catch it and it gets on you and you do a good thorough study to whatever extent that is for you, man, it's life changing. And so, excuse me, if you want to get on it and you want to get started, there's some notes in the below, right? If you're on YouTube, there'll be links below on how you can learn. And it's really an educational process. Just buy a couple of books, vet it for yourself. And if you're listening and you don't have access to show notes, go to bankingwithlife.com and just go to the bookstore and buy you some books. There's some recommended reading list up there. For really, if you were to purchase Becoming Your Own Banker, Nelson's first book, his second book, Building a Warehouse of Wealth, a third book written by Dr. Robert Murphy and businessman Carlos Lara, How Privatized Banking Really Works. There's 3 books. And then you either purchase Nelson's 6.5-hour DVD series and own it, just the DVDs, the little pieces of plastic that you got to plug into a computer, or your game box. I know some of you people out there 50 years old are still gaming, which is okay. But if you don't have a game box or a way to play a DVD, you can purchase a digital access to a 6.5-hour presentation. And Becoming Your Own Banker, Becoming Your Own Banker is available on Audible. So if I total all that up, I think you can get out the door for about $250 or $300 tops. And you don't even have to buy it all at one time, right? Buy one book, get through it, buy the next book, get through that, and save yourself some time and money, right? You can afford $250 or $300 over the next, next week or next 6 months. But that's how one would learn properly, and then put all of that other stuff on the side. When you Google up infinite banking concepts, the first 5 or 10 things that come up on Google are going to be paid advertisements, which I'm a capitalist. I understand advertising. I'm saying overlook those and go to the source, infinitebanking.org. Okay. Mm-mm. All right. Well, thanks for letting me run through that too, Eugene. But that's how you get started.
Right. Go right to the sword. That's exactly right. Yeah. Exactly right.
Okay, Eugene. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying you're so correct.
Okay. Thank you.
It's like asking me what someone else's name is, and they're standing right over there. Go right to the source.
That's right. That's right. All right. Thank you, Eugene, for spending time with us. Tell Betty I said hello, and appreciate her, and I appreciate you.
Okay. It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. James, I don't know of nobody else in America that stays on my mind like my agents, because that's what in my financial arena in North Carolina, my agents is in Texas. So North Carolina, Texas is the next state to North Carolina as far as I'm concerned.
There you go. We should drive on over sometime. We'll go to lunch. Right.
All right. And we're working hard now. We're working hard on making that happen.
Perfect.
On making that happen. We got these 2 little ladies as a client. This one is 99 in August, and her sister will be 101 in about another couple of weeks. They're bedridden and they can't get up and do anything, but they can surely tell you something. Yeah, 2 little sisters, 99 and 101.
So they still have their mind. They still have the solid mind.
Most of the time, of the time, their mind is pretty good. One of them.
I'd be interested in hearing what 101-year-old lady. Nice lady and her 98-year-old sister has to say. I think I'd pay attention.
Oh, yes. They have some things to tell us now.
Yeah. That's perfect. All right, Eugene, have a good rest of your day, sir. Thanks again. I appreciate you very much. Okay.
All right. No, sure. Appreciate you too, Jane.
All right.
And hope we can do this again sometime sooner than the last.
There you go. Okay. I'm all in. People love you. I'm telling you. I've received several emails over the last, 3 or 4 months. When's Eugene going to come back? When are you going to get Eugene? He's my favorite, guest you've had on there. And I'm like, well, give me a minute. Right. Okay. We'll see you, Eugene. Thanks.
All right. Now, you have a good day. Rest of your day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Banking with Life podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe and click on that little notification bell. Otherwise, join us on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher for weekly content.